Hello to Legal English Lab. Today we are talking about the Arctic at a crossroads. Why are the polar bears worried? Let's talk about Arctic issues. Why is the Arctic in the focus of current geopolitics and global security?
Lawyer, can humans use nuclear bombs on the sea?
No, it would break international law.
But has anyone tried before?
Tests happened long ago, but real war use? Not on the ocean.
Why is it banned?
Because it kills civilians, destroys nature, and poisons water.
Who made that rule?
Many treaties, the UN, humanitarian law, and the law of the sea.
But what if a country says self-defense?
That's the gray zone. They can claim it, but others may not agree.
So, could Russia use nukes in the Arctic?
They could threaten, but legally, it's almost impossible to justify.
And what about the United States?
The same. Bound by law, but politics make it risky.
What happens if they break the law?
Sanctions, trials, maybe global outrage. But punishment is hard.
Then is the law weak?
It's strong when nations respect it. Weak if they ignore it.
So, the Arctic has no shield?
It has agreements, but they depend on trust.
And what about us, the animals?
Law protects nature too. Nukes would harm bears, seals, fish.
But can lawyers stop missiles?
Not alone. Soldiers and diplomacy matter too.
Then who saves the Arctic?
Lawyers defend rules. Leaders must obey. People must care.
What if no one listens?
Then the Arctic becomes a battlefield, not a sanctuary.
Can small countries stop big ones?
Yes, if they unite in alliances like NATO or the UN.
And if big powers veto everything?
That's the flaw. The UN Security Council can block action.
So, the Arctic is not safe.
Safe only if cooperation beats conflict.
What about climate change?
Melting ice makes new routes. That's why the Arctic is strategic.
Do humans fight over those routes?
Yes, trade, ships, oil, gas, all in play.
And minerals?
Rare earths. Big powers want them.
So, the war in Ukraine changes my Arctic too?
Yes, it pushes NATO north and Russia east. The Arctic feels it.
Does China care?
Very much. China calls itself a near-Arctic state.
But China has no Arctic land.
True, but they want shipping routes and resources.
So, three giants, Russia, US, China?
Yes, and smaller Arctic nations caught in between.
Then my home is part of global power games?
Exactly. That's why law is vital.
But law seems too soft.
It depends on people demanding respect for it.
And animals like me.
You remind us what is at stake. Life, not just borders.
Lawyer, last question. Can nuclear weapons ever be legal?
Only in theory. In practice, almost never.
Then humans must choose, protect the Arctic or destroy it.
That's the truth.
Now, let's look at some key vocabulary from this topic. Treaty, compliance, deterrence, deterrence. Accountability, accountability. To justify, to justify. To violate, to violate. To preserve, to preserve. To negotiate, to negotiate. To escalate, to escalate. To enforce, to enforce. Let's review and lock in the vocabulary with definitions. A treaty is a formal written agreement between two or more countries. It is used to set rules, promises, or cooperation on things like peace, trade, borders, or the environment. Example: the Paris Agreement on Climate Change is a treaty. Key point: once signed and ratified, countries are legally bound to follow it. In short, a treaty is like a contract, but between nations. Compliance means following rules, laws, or agreements. If a country or a person is in compliance, it means they are doing what the law or treaty requires. If they are not in compliance, it means they are breaking or ignoring the rules. Examples: the company is in compliance with safety regulations. The state was punished for non-compliance with the treaty. Deterrence means preventing someone from doing something by making them afraid of the consequences. It is often used in law, security, and international relations. Examples: in criminal law, harsh punishments are meant to create deterrence, so people don't commit crimes. In international relations, nuclear weapons are used for deterrence, to stop enemies from attacking. Accountability means being responsible for your actions and having to explain them to others. It is about taking responsibility and accepting the consequences. Examples: in daily life, a student has accountability for finishing homework on time. In law/politics, government officials must show accountability to the people for their decisions. To justify means to give a good reason for something or to show that an action or decision is right or acceptable. Examples: for every day, he tried to justify being late by saying the bus broke down. For law, a lawyer must justify why their client acted in a certain way. In short, to justify means to explain with reason so others accept it. To violate means to break a law, rule, or agreement. To act against rights or principles. Examples: for every day, he violated the rules by cheating on the test. For law, a state that violated a treaty can face international consequences. In short, to violate means to break or disrespect something official, law, or rule right. To preserve means to keep something safe, protected, and make sure it lasts for the future. Examples: for every day, this museum preserves old paintings. For environment, we must preserve the Arctic for future generations. For law, the Constitution preserves citizens' freedoms. In short, to preserve means to protect and keep something from being lost, damaged, or destroyed. To negotiate means to discuss something with another person or group in order to reach an agreement. Examples: for every day, they negotiated the price of the car. For diplomacy, countries negotiate peace treaties. For work, she negotiated a higher salary with her boss. In short, to negotiate means to talk and make compromises so both sides agree. To escalate means to make something become more serious, intense, or dangerous. Examples: for every day, the argument escalated into a fight. For politics, sanctions can escalate a conflict. For work, if the issue isn't solved, we will escalate it to management. In short, to escalate means to grow bigger, more serious, or more dangerous. To enforce means to make sure a law, rule, or agreement is followed, often using authority or force. Examples: for every day, the school enforces rules about uniforms. For law, police enforce the law on the streets. For international law, The UN tries to enforce sanctions against aggressor states. In short, to enforce means to make people obey rules or laws. Enjoy your progress. Subscribe Legal English Lab. Don't forget to lock the video.